go. Unfreaking believable. Unbelievable. I gotta be honest with you, that game drove me nuts. I cannot believe the Buccaneers lost that game. Wow. I don't even know what to say. Tough one. Ah, man, that was an absolute laser from the Cooch, wasn't it? What a crazy game. The Bulls are bowl-bound for the third season in a row. An incredible performance. And listen, we know the competition. They did what they had to do. No more silver linings. No more moral victories. It was put up or shut up time. And boy, did they rise to the occasion. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Recher podcast. Happy January 9th, 2026. Look at this. Our guy David Terry right off the rip with the $10 super chat. DT, love you, man. Thank you so much. We're actually going to talk a little Liverpool later on the program. Whatever happened with Gabriel Martinelli and Connor Bradley at the end of that match yesterday with Arsenal. It was a shitstorm at the end of the game there. The only show in Tampa that's going to talk about it today will be me. He's hanging out in Cozumel. Appreciate you, my friend. Dolan, happy Friday, Jay, and all. Miami probably should have beaten Rebels by more, and that was absolutely pass interference. We'll get into that as well. Plenty to get into on the program today. Make sure you follow me on all social media platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I am everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube. We're over 2,000 subscribers, and I couldn't do this without you. The march to 3K starts now. It's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful day here in the Tampa Bay area. We'll talk some Bucs. We'll talk some Lightning. We'll talk some injuries. We'll do everything here on the program. You know how we roll. We touch on a little bit of everything. We are live here on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, /X, and a big thank you to our partners here on the program. Honest Hammer Custom Builders LLC for all of your residential and commercial needs, and EverHealth. Our weekly EverHealth injury report with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez is today at 12:30. He didn't join us yesterday because we were chatting with Julian Brisebois. And when Julian calls and says, hey, we got something going on at the arena and you're invited, you show up. So Dr. Carlos Rodriguez and the EverHealth Injury Report at 12:30. Everyday Eddie Encina joins us at 1 o'clock today to talk all things Lightning, the Red Hot Bolts. Shout out to Pierre Lebrun from The Athletic. Famed longtime national story writer, wrote a really good piece on Julian Brisebois. So great to see him get some love. He also mentioned something that we talked about on the show earlier this week. Why in the blue hell is John Cooper not higher up when it comes to this Jack Adams Award? And I showed you the NHL.com writers. They had Coop sixth. The guy that had, second or third was Joel Quenneville. And we won't talk about Joel Quenneville and why his tenure ended the way it did there in Florida because of just the lack of any type of professionalism there in Chicago with that terrible, terrible story. And, they're 2-12 in their last 14 games. So, yeah, again, once the NHL.com writers get their head out of the sand, it'll be the first time this year. So we'll get into that a little bit later on today. We were going to wait 90 seconds, but we're not waiting 90 seconds. We're getting them on now because every single minute that we can get with the Sage, the one and only Ira Kaufman, Joe Bucs fan, we're going to take it. What's going on, brother? How are you?
What am I, a warm-up act for Eddie Encina over there, Recher?
Hey, man, you're the curtain jerker over here, buddy. We don't want it. We're kicking it off with the best kickoff guy around. You are the Morton Anderson of the program here. Before we get underway, I got a bone to pick with maybe not you, but maybe Stephen Lee. There was a tweet put out last week about Ira Kaufman having a great chat with Luke Kuechly and about Levante David and how he should be a Hall of Famer, which wasn't mentioned in the tweet. Was how Ira Kaufman ended up seeing Luke Kuechly over there by the soda machine. And that was because yours truly said to Ira, hey, look, there's Luke Kuechly. And in true Kaufman fashion, he runs over there. And Ira, that was pretty cool, though, man. He kind of held you there for a second. It wasn't no passing convo. He really wanted to give you his 2 cents on Levante David. But I just wanted to tell you, you're welcome for pointing him out.
You know, Jay, it's a point well made. I buried the puck, but you get the assist over there, Jay.
Yeah, I'll take it.
And we're meeting next week.
Nice.
on a Zoom call to select the class of 2026. Big responsibility. And, they got new rules going on, so the classes might be smaller than they used to be. And now they're lumping in the old timers with the contributors and the coaches, and you can only pick 3 out of the 5 guys. So a lot going on with the Hall of Fame, but Kuechly's hoping that this is his year. It'll be his second chance. A lot of people thought, Jay, that he would make it as a first-year eligible last year, but it didn't happen. He's certainly a worthy candidate. He's got hardware that Levante doesn't have, but Levante's got a compelling case of his own, Jay. He does.
That's gonna be one of the more unique cases that I think anybody is gonna have to present. You're gonna probably be the guy to do that when it's all said and done. We don't know if he's done. He did sound like he was saying his goodbyes after that last game against Carolina.
It did.
So what do you think? What's your gut tell you when it comes to Levante and Mike?
I think Levante's going to retire. I do. And look, I'm not going to take a pot shot at a credible Hall of Fame candidate, but he's not the same player, Jay, that he was when he was 29. He's not. He's a human being, still good, but not elite. And I think it's going to be a tough blow for Todd Bowles from a leadership standpoint to try to overcome. But that whole front seven, Jay, we'll get into it. That whole front seven on defense, it really concerns me going forward.
Yeah, that was one of the, we talked a lot before the game in week 18 about the future of this team and how they were going to need help. And then you were there in the press conference. You and I were 2 of the heavy hitters asking multiple questions of Todd Bowles. And yeah, I didn't love it. I didn't love it, Ira. I didn't love the responses from Todd. We've been in those situations before with Dirk Cutter, and he was a dead man walking, and Todd was kind of, I don't know. What was I supposed to do with a special teams coach? Or, you asked, what's your message for fans that don't have it? And he says, well, I've earned the right. And it's just, when you walk out of those rooms, Ira, and you know this better than me, and you don't have that, if you have any type of kind of feeling, it's going to be 10 times worse with the fans. So are you surprised? What's your whole take on, let's just start with the Glazers retaining Todd Bowles. We'll get into him getting rid of his assistants next.
Absolutely not surprised, Jay. I've been saying for about 6 weeks, even in the midst of that tailspin, that I thought he was going to skate. I thought he was going to survive. I think in the end, Jay, and I don't think it was the contract. I just don't. They fired coaches with years left on their contract. It's almost a habit with them at this point. So I don't think that was a major issue. I think the dominant voices in the room that made the call basically said, we had an inordinate amount of injuries, and let's give him one more year. Now look. Jay, let's be fair for the Bowles skeptics out there. He won 10 games a year ago. He did. All right, he lost in the first round to a Washington team, Jay, that turned out to be a lot better than people thought they were, and that went into Detroit, I believe, the following week and mopped up the Lions. So, no shame in losing a first-round playoff game. But he had a bad year. The team had a bad year. They were poorly coached. But, Jay, I'll say this to you right now. Just because they were poorly coached, and they were, and that's on Bowles, doesn't mean that this roster wasn't exposed last year, and I think it was, especially that front seven on defense. People look at the secondary, they can't cover anybody. Jay, with a strong pass rush, that secondary would look one hell of a lot better. So I'm not going to rip on those young defensive backs. I'm not.
Yep. You and I spoke about this at length about Jason Light, and I said it, on the show earlier this week, and I put out a video that's gotten a lot of views on social media saying that, you can blame Bowles, and does he need to wear this? Yes. But so does Jason Light, because Ira, think about it, brother. He has not drafted a Pro Bowler since Tristan Wirfs and Antoine Winfield Jr. So that's 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 5 draft classes, no Pro Bowlers. That's got to change. He's got good players, no great players. And the players that he's bringing in, this is what you're going to get. You're going to be hovering around 500 if you keep bringing in guys that aren't kind of pushing the envelope of a Pro Bowler and an All-Pro. So Jason Light's got to wear some of this too, doesn't he?
And Jay, now we have a 2024 draft pick, which looked like a sensational draft pick, an absolute award winner in Bucky Irving. And now, for reasons that still remain a little bit hazy, Jay, I don't know what the heck to expect from number 7 next fall. He didn't play particularly well before he got hurt. Then he got hurt and didn't handle it well, in the words of Todd Bowles. Nobody knows what the heck that means. And, Jay, you and I went to the games. I mean, I think you could faithfully argue that Rachaad White and Sean Tucker ran the ball better than Bucky Irving. I mean, that is hard to fathom coming off that incredible rookie season. And now I don't know what to make of them. They talk about character and being a Buccaneer, man, but Devin White, who did help him to a Super Bowl, and then he went south. Jay, he went south, and, he got picked up by other teams who didn't, really give him even a chance and moved on from him. He had a lot of tackles for the Raiders last year, but he's not a Pro Bowler. And now you got Bucky Irving with, so some of these character issues might be popping up a little bit right here in Tampa, much to Light's dismay.
I know he always talks about trying to get like that Buccaneer player, and you want guys like Levante David, but I'm with you. You don't know what you're getting from Bucky Irving, and that is scary because Rashaad's gone. He's already saying his goodbyes on social media, and he probably wants to get an opportunity to go forward and be an RB1 somewhere else. But I look at the front 7 too, and I wanted to get your opinion on some of the things that we heard from Yaya Diaby talking about the walkthroughs and talking about they didn't practice hard enough. I have a tough time swallowing that, Ira, from a guy that, in February of last year was telling everybody he's an elite pass rusher and that we need to watch the tape. And then he comes out this year and he has 7 sacks. I get it. You didn't have much help from Hassan Reddick, but, greatness shows itself. You can't tell me that Myles Garrett is playing on a defense that's, reminiscent of the 85 Bears either. And he had 3 times as many sacks as Yaya Diaby. What do you make of Yaya and some of these younger guys that Braswell and, I wouldn't put them two obviously in the same category, but the guys that were supposed to be average aren't average. They're not even, the good guys are average. The great guys are supposed to be great or good. Like, where are we at with some of these young guys, especially on the defensive side of the ball?
Jay, simple truth. You got to earn your stripes before you start mouthing off. You do, if you want to have any credibility. Now, if Levante David wants to talk about walkthroughs, I'll listen. Maybe even Vita Vea, maybe Winfield, but not Yaya Diaby. Look, you can fault Todd Bowles for a lot of things. Jay, he's ultra conservative at times, and it hurts him. He might have been loyal to too many staffers. That hurt him. That guys that Arians brought in 2019. But, I'm not going to pin the walkthroughs on them. First of all, they were battered for much of the season. I mean, especially on offense, battered. And, I trust Bowles to get them to practice to the best of their abilities. What I had a problem was, Jay, and it started 3 snaps into the opening game. And I was at the Atlanta game. 3 snaps in. Flat pass to Bijan Robinson, right side. Nobody near him. First guy finally comes over there, misses the tackle. Jay, they couldn't defend the flat pass. I mean, and it never got any better. It just never got any better. The tackling was awful. I mean, if there was a worse tackling team, I want to see it. And they don't swarm to the ball, Jay. So that's that's double jeopardy. You remember Monty Kiffin, no loafing. They didn't do that. The miscommunications were terrible. Hey, I'm still mad at the 4th and 8 play from Carolina, even though the Bucs won the game, to McMillan, because just like Bijan Robinson in the flat, Jay, that's the guy you got to worry about. That's the guy. McMillan is the guy from Carolina. Nobody else. You're worried about Xavier Legette. So it's McMillan. And just a terrible year for the Buck defense. They got to get some new talent in there. I don't know if Light's going to go after Max Crosby. I don't know if he's available. But I'll tell you right now, Jay, in terms of, and I asked Bowles this, you were there, do you need an ass kicker on defense? And I think they do.
Yeah.
I'm not saying a guy's trying to hurt people, but, that can sort of inspire maybe a Baker Mayfield type on the defensive side. And I think Crosby's one of those guys, Jay. So I don't know if he's available for a number one pick. I think I got to seriously consider that.
Yeah, we hear that a lot in hockey. You need guys that can drag you into the fight, and I don't think there's any guys on the defense that do that. And I asked Todd Bowles in that same press conference, I go, you brought in JPP, right? You brought in JPP not for what he does on the field, but Larry Foote sits there and tells us in that same room, Ira, that we don't have energy, we don't have juice. What the hell does that mean? Right? Like that's a big question mark for me. And I'm just like, why at this point of the year, with guys on your defense that have won Super Bowls before, why is energy and juice a problem? Why do you got to go back to the well for a guy that's been on the couch? I don't understand. And that's the thing is, like, we talk about, and you're not wrong when you're talking about Todd Bowles gets an opportunity because of all the injuries. But Ira, if I tell you before the season that Yaya's going to play 17, Winfield's going to play 17,
Mayfield's going to play 17,
bro, come on, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, injuries, San Francisco's not drowning in their sorrows, losing Fred Warner, right? Like, I don't understand that, how it's a caveat, it's an ifs, it's a could, it's a would, it's a should. I mean, doesn't it feel like in some ways, Ira, the Glazers could be delaying the inevitable of a decision that they're just going to have to make at this point next year with Todd Bowles?
The one thing, Jay, we can say without equivocation, and I don't think anybody in the world can argue, including the subject of what we're about to say. I don't think anybody's going to have a hotter seat going into 26 than Todd Bowles. I mean, I can't imagine it. He goes 7-10. He's out on his ass, Jay.
Yep.
Yeah, no questions asked. You're gone. I think you got to make the playoffs at a bare minimum. Got to make the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I'll tell you what, Jay, and I don't want to read too much into it, but New Orleans might have found their quarterback.
Yes.
They might have. I don't know about Atlanta with Penix. I don't know. I don't think Cousins will be back. Mm-hmm. And then you're looking at Carolina with Bryce Young. But now there's questions about Mayfield, Jay. I don't see them extending him until maybe the middle of next season. So in that regard, his lousy second half, and it was lousy. Some bad interceptions, Jay. I mean, bad, not tipped balls, bad decisions. So now there's some questions about him. Having said that, Jay, and I don't know how much you've talked about this week, but let's look at this Grizzard thing for a second. Jay, if Baker Mayfield, who obviously was consulted seriously about Grizzard and Thad Lewis, the quarterback coach. Jay, if Baker Mayfield tells the Glazers and Jason Light, you gotta stick with Grizzard. He's an up and comer. Mm-hmm. It was his first year, and the same thing with Thad Lewis, and he didn't do it. Jay, he obviously didn't do that.
Right.
And now he's got to be very involved in picking the next guy. So it could be a guy with a little bit of history for Mayfield.
I do not have nearly as much faith in Baker Mayfield at the quarterback position. I'm probably one of the people in this town that has the least amount of faith. I don't think that he can lead them to a Super Bowl. And the reason being, Ira, is that you fall so in love with his grit and his moxie. But I ask you, Baker Mayfield's best plays come with what? His legs or his arm, right? That's scary, Ira. It's a scary thing to question because he's your quarterback. And Jimmy Johnson, and you and I have talked about this before, Jimmy Johnson says you can talk about arm strength, you can talk about height. The two most important things are accuracy and decision-making when you're talking about a quarterback. Are those the two strengths for Baker Mayfield? I don't know if I would go with that. When I look at Baker Mayfield, and I said the numbers earlier this week, I don't know if you guys saw this. I did the homework on myself. Baker Mayfield's won 2 games in 8 seasons when he's thrown the ball 40 or more times. He's only won 11 games when he's thrown the ball 35 times. 11 games in 8 years, Ira. You know what kind of league this is. And I know the more you throw the ball, the less you're probably going to win because you want to run the ball. I understand that. Those numbers aren't great for anybody. But Jared Goff's numbers are way better under those two statistics. than Baker Mayfield. And that's worrisome because you're talking about a guy, Ira, that's not the biggest dude in the world. The only way he's going to be effective is when he's tough and running for those third downs. But his play dissipates when he gets hurt. We saw it in Cleveland. We see it here. And it's not like we don't think the guy's tough. But, Ira, if we see that much of a precipitous drop-off when he's not 100%, I mean, how confident can you be that in week 18 he's going to be able to make the plays? I mean, shit, they won the game against the Panthers, and he hit Rosaboom right in the chest. He made the kid look like Luke Kuechly. What do you have to say about Baker and his prospects going forward, as a guy that really could be, we love all the makeup, but when it comes to the statistics, when it comes to the numbers, I really don't know, man. I have my reservations.
That's some good research there, JR. I got to tip my hat to you, baby. Jay, do you cut him any slack with playing, behind two backup guards who weren't very good? Whereas when the offensive line was intact in 24, he put up huge numbers and completed 70% of his passes, Jay.
No. And here's let me cut you off. No. And here's the reason why. The one position in all of sports that you have to be able to do something out of nothing is the quarterback position. As much as we talk about, you got to be able to make plays on time, and you got to be, when you get off platform, those are how careers are made, right?
Like a Josh Allen. Like a Josh Allen.
But think about it like this, Ira. Not just the Allen and Lamar Jackson, the immaculate reception, Eli Manning in the helmet catch, right? Even Brady. What was Brady good at? Sliding in the pocket, sliding out of the pocket. Baker, when people are telling me, if I tell you before the season, hey, the Bucs will have 3/5 of their offensive line healthy for the last 6 weeks or so, and the three guys that you're going to have healthier, Gedeke, Barton, and Wirfs, people would say, well, those are the three I want, right? So it's like, if we keep grading this team as, well, if this, and if this happens, Ira, that's a slippery slope, because we're talking about the defense. We're talking about Baker. We're talking about Bowles. If you have so much gray area, you know what you don't have? You don't have black and white. You don't have truth. You don't have a winning team. So that's what really scares me about the Buccaneers, is that so many things have to go right. And then what does that get them? Like you said, 9-8, 10-7, a first-round exit, because at the end of the day, it'll be an improvement. But instead of, all right, 2026 isn't 2025, but it's 2024. It'll be like Groundhog Day again.
Jay, if they don't have a productive offseason, and I'm talking about the draft and free agency, and aggressiveness and dynamic, if that doesn't happen, Jay, and they try to run it back, I think they're going to fall behind in this division. Mm-hmm. I really do. I'll give you an example, Jay. And look, I'm not saying Jason Light had a bad draft. I'm not saying that, because I think Parrish is really good. Yes, I think it's going to be very good. Jay, Atlanta knocked it out of the park. They just fired the general manager. The guy had a wonderful draft. They got 3 defensive starters. The Watts kid at safety. This guy's good. Pierce, who wasn't even on Light's board because they thought he was a head case, and he might be. But the head case had 9.5 sacks. And rookies usually don't come in and make that kind of impact. The Georgia outside linebacker, he's going to be a good player. Walker, yeah. So, and New Orleans might have found a quarterback. So I'm not saying the Bucs are old. They're not old. But Evans could go. Levante could go. And, Mayfield's not 24. They got to get their act together, and they better do it fast. And I'll tell you this, Jake, these 5 coaches that were let go, that didn't come from Bowles. That came from the people that signed the checks in collaboration with Light. And if Light would have stood on his desk and said, no, you got to keep, this guy, you got to keep Kevin Ross, that didn't happen. Mm-hmm. So, the one thing I don't understand, Jay, and I don't think it's going to happen, but it was speculated about. If you were going to bring in another play caller for the defense, why in the world would you keep Todd Bowles as your head coach? 100%. That makes no sense, Jay. So I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, I don't think that makes any sense at all.
So Ira, let's go shopping. Let's go grocery shopping when it comes to the Buccaneers. Let's get 3 items. What 3 items do the Buccaneers need to address to make fans feel better going about the 2026 season?
Edge rush is always number one. Always number one, because Vita Vea is still here, and you would think Cansey's going to play. Middle linebacker, I think, crucial. They gave the job to Savassier Dennis. What can you do? He was, I would say, subpar, especially against the pass. Jay, middle of the field, wide open, wide freaking. I don't think they need a lot on offense, Jay. I really don't.
It's more the play caller, right? I mean, I think that'd be the third thing, is the guy that's kind of pulling the strings, right?
People are worried about Evans, retiring, but this McMillan kid is not a bum, Jay.
No,
he's not bad. Man. He's good. You would gotta think Godwin will come back stronger next year. He didn't look like himself for most of the season. And I'm going to prefer the Igbuka we saw, Jay, when they were 6-2. He did disappear. I don't know what the heck happened. How about a tight end, Jay, that can stretch the field? A guy with a little speed that can stretch the field. I'm not asking for Trey McBride. I mean, those guys don't come around very often. He is a fantastic player for a bad football team. But can I have a guy that averages more than 9 yards a catch, 8 yards a catch, and scores more than one touchdown? That's what I want.
What about Mike McDaniel as the OC?
I think that's outstanding. I think it's outstanding. I don't care if he's got a history with Mayfield or doesn't have a history. The guy schemes up the run like nobody's business, Jay. Now, Liam Cohn was really good at it and is very good at it, no question about it. And that might have affected Bucky Irving a little bit, just that transition from Cohn to Grizzard. But I think McDaniel is a very good offensive mind. I don't think he had a lot of talent besides Etienne, who I think, Jay, might be the most underrated player in the league. I think the kid's fantastic.
Would you have McDaniel or Monken if you had your choice?
McDaniel.
McDaniel?
Monken did knock it out of the park last year with the Ravens, even though that Derrick Henry was healthy and Lamar Jackson played, 2/3 of the year maybe. Their offense wasn't great. He had that game where he didn't put Henry in. That's on him down the stretch. He's not bad, but I think McDaniel, sort of a rare talent. I think Cohn is a rare talent in that regard, scheming up the offense. I think McDaniel would be a home run.
Before I let you go, I know John Harbaugh he's the big name out there. He's the big fish. Did the Buccaneers do enough to try to bring him in?
I think I think they reached out, and if they didn't, shame on them. This is Harbaugh. Just like if Mike Tomlin was, if they lost that game and Tomlin was available, shame on them if they don't reach out. I think they were told directly, Jay, and quickly, it's not going to happen. I got to think he's going to end up with the Giants, Jay. I think that's the right move for both sides. And by the way, Jay, I don't want to go without saying this. This John Cooper, Jay, this guy's tremendous. Yeah. I mean, this guy is tremendous because, Jay, I'm watching the Lightning games. It's like half the team, wasn't there 2 years ago. It's not like they're running it back with the same, 14 players. He adjusts on the fly. They got off to a bad start. Jay, I figure, all right, this is the year. They might miss the playoffs or whatever. And boy, I mean, this guy Cooper knows what he's doing. I know he's highly regarded, but he can still be underrated at this point, Jay.
No doubt about it. No Jack Adams Award trophies for him quite yet. And I think by the end of this season, we're going to see that Victor Hedman, Ryan McDonough, and Eric Chernak will miss a higher percentage of games than Levante David, Vita Vea, and Antoine Winfield Jr. But no complaining about who's not there for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Have you guys gone to a game, you, Jonesy, and Roy, yet this year?
I'm setting it up right now with the PR man. He usually takes good care of us, and I want to know what the meal is that night. That's a factor also.
Hey, the best food that we've seen in the last decade over at the arena now, brother.
I might go twice now.
I know. Make sure you text me. Let me know what date you guys are going, so I'll definitely be there. Because you guys always go during December, and I'm in New York.
Jay, quick story.
Yeah.
I think it was a couple of years ago. And we went to the game, and it was the Flyers game, and Torts was the coach. And, Jay, it's about a half an hour before the game. And I'm looking around. Hey, you see Tortorella? He didn't come into the, he didn't come to the dining room. And the guard says, yeah, he's in the, he's in the coach's room. And Jay, this is a half an hour before the game. And, the Brooklyn boy in me took over. Yeah. And I walked over to the door and I knocked on the door. And now I open it a crack. And there's Tortorella sitting there with three other guys, they're talking about strategy, to how to stop Braden Point. And he sees me and I stick my head in and you know what? He came outside the door and we had a chat for 10 minutes. Jay,
nice.
That's the other side of John Tortorella.
And you know what? You got to be bold, man. You got to be bold. You got to go out there and you got to.
I think it's safe as death. Jay, I think it's safe as death. I got to make my move.
My man, the one and only Ira Kaufman, the Sage, Bucs fan, JoeBucsFan.com. Go check them out. They are all over it. Ira, always a pleasure. Thank you for making our show a whole heck of a lot better. Text me. Let me know when you guys are to go into the game, man. Thank you. Talk soon.
See you at Benchmark, baby. Take care.
Yes, sir. You're the man. The one and only Ira Kaufman. Our guy, Dan Gary, not on my watch. Yeah, Dan Gary, the main security guard there at Benchmark International Arena. If you want to get down the tunnel, you got to get through Dan, and a lot easier said than done. We are so happy to be joined for the first time this year by our guy, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. He was all over the Bucky Irving injury in the beginning. Doc, when everybody was talking about the foot, you were saying, watch out for the shoulder, and the shoulder was the thing that kept him out the longest. Doc, Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. How are things?
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. I'm doing great. How about you?
Doing well, man. And our Lightning are kicking butt too. 8-game winning streak. I mean, it's fun to watch those guys now, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and watching that conversation, I mean, he's absolutely right. I mean, sometimes I go to the games and my wife's asking me, who are these you guys, new games? But it's the same great quality of hockey. So, I mean, kudos to the coach and the Lightning players because they really have meshed it up and come out. And, I mean, they struggle a little bit at the beginning, but they really have it going now.
Yeah, it's unbelievable how good they're doing. And, it's we're in line for an incredible finish for our Tampa Bay Lightning. Before we get into some of the big NFL injuries for the playoffs this weekend, I wanted to ask you about athletes performing in cold weather. Because the big thing, and people always think about it like, oh, it's like clay, you got to warm it up. And, I was playing softball at the end of December and we don't deal with it as much here, but I know with me starting practice up, it's going to be colder next week. Right. What's the main thing that you want to focus on with athletes, especially young athletes, when we're talking about temperatures in the 30s and 40s and 50s? What are some of the big kind of injuries that they could sustain, because you want to make sure that you're not just kind of going out there and playing?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is muscle strains and muscle injuries.
Right.
You do have to keep your body warmed up. So it's not so while you're playing and when you come off the field, you gotta stay warm, whether it's by warmers or on the bike or just staying active on somehow on the sidelines. Because as cold weather settles in and your body starts cooling off, muscles start stiffening up, things start getting tight. And then you go back out there and your body's cold and you're likely to strain or pull something. So it's really important. And you see a lot of these guys either in the warmers or putting the big coats on or just going on a bike and just staying loose on the bike. That's really important. Otherwise, you're just going to stiffen up. I mean, you feel it once you stop playing and you are out for 15, 20 minutes in cold weather, things just get real stiff and it's really hard to get going again.
Doc, I had a great conversation the other day with a friend of mine. He actually works at the University of Tampa, but what he does at Raymond James Stadium on the day for Bucs games is he's the concussion spotter. So he's the guy that's up in the booth that is brought in by the National Football League, and he has got his eyes just scanning the field the entire time, and he's the guy that ends up calling down to let the people know that that there's a possible concussion there. And he and I were talking about some of the telltale signs and what is it? Fencing, when the hands are up like that, when a person is concussed.
You can get stretching. You can get a little bit of, I mean, sometimes even looks like seizure activity. It looks like they are seizing, but it's really that's just a reaction of the body when the brain gets a injury, like a contusion or a concussion. Where the body just stiffens up and it may have a little shaking. So it's not really a seizure. It's actually a brain reaction and a nerve reaction, that the central nervous system reaction that's there. But you also look for like staggering. You look for guys that don't look right. They're coming off the huddle and are not looking the right way, or maybe heading the wrong way when the huddle's going one way, they're heading the other way. But I mean, concussions is one of those things you really got to pay attention because they can be
Yeah.
very subtle. When I was doing a lot of sideline coverage in football, I mean, I had some kids that their presenting sign was just emotional.
Yeah.
They would be crying or they would be just frustrated. And that was the only sign that they had at the time. And then all the other symptoms started creeping in minutes later.
I've seen that before too. I mean, that happened to Luke Kuechly too from the Carolina Panthers years ago. He got carted off with a concussion, and he's bawling, crying, and just that conversation. It made me think of you and just him going back, and he goes, we are a professional, organization, but we have to be completely sure. You're eyeing these guys, and I told him, I said, what happens like at the line of scrimmage? And he's like, we're not really. Those are just kind of isn't that crazy though, Doc? Like. Every single play, you got offensive and defensive linemen. It's like a car crash, and they're just not like you don't really notice those guys because it happens all the time. Like it's so much. I think football's so much more of a dangerous sport than we kind of let ourselves to think about, isn't it?
And it's those. There's a lot of studies going on right now regarding all those what we call subconcussive hits.
Right.
Which are all those impacts you see at the line, all those helmets coming together. Is there a long-term consequence? Is there a long-term effect of having all those subconcussive hits, one after the other, multiple through the course of a game that may not result in a per se concussion, but there may be some down the road long-term issues that may happen just because they accumulate. And over time, they may cause some memory problems, emotional problems, depression, headaches. So there may be an issue with that, and there's a lot of studies going on right now regarding subconcussive injuries.
Yeah, it's just, and again with football, it's going to keep going. Like we're going to continue to talk about this because of how violent the game is, because of how physical the game is, and we have an incredible slate coming up for the NFL playoffs this weekend. And the Chicago Bears are one team that for the most part they've done a good job of staying relatively healthy, but they're getting Rome Odunze, their wide receiver, back. He's been out for a while, Doc. It looks like he's all systems go for him. I mean, How much of an impact can you make when you have an injury like that, but you've been out for more than a month?
So he was really playing through plantar fasciitis through most of the season. And then it led to a stress fracture, which I'm assuming is a stress fracture in the foot. So I'm assuming it's a stress fracture at the heel area where the plantar fascia inserts. So very painful. I don't know if you ever had plantar fasciitis.
My sister-in-law has it, and my dad has had it, and my sister-in-law has it right now, and she's miserable. And my brother's kind of busting her chops about it, and she's like, "This is not funny because it's everything. You don't want to put your shoe on, you don't want to walk, you don't want to stand. Right? It's just everything hurts, doesn't it, Doc?
And it's really worse in the morning when you first wake up because you've been sleeping, your toes kind of contract when you're sleeping. So the plantar fascia is trying to heal through the course of the night, but it's healing up all contracted. You take those first few steps in the morning and you break all that scar tissue and the plantar fascia stretches out. It's just like you're stepping on needles and nails. Then it feels better through the course of the day. So then through the course of the day, you're like, oh, it's just not too bad until the next morning comes in and you get it again. And I'm pretty sure that Odunze was having a lot of issues after games, that day after playing a game. That morning, those first few days after a game, that had to be very painful. And eventually the problem is that chronic inflammation, that chronic stressing, that's chronic scarring that's happening in the plantar fascia eventually starts causing an injury at the bone. So then he ended up with a stress fracture, which ends up being the reason why now he has to sit out to let that heal up. By now, the fact that he's had the physical therapy, the stretching, the exercises, the time to heal the fracture, it's all systems go. Hopefully, he'll be okay after the game and he won't have a recurrence of the plantar fasciitis after the game.
Our buddy Greg DeCruz that's always watching from Costa Rica, he wants you to move there. I used a frozen tennis ball when I ran ultra marathons to help with my plantar issues. I've seen a lot of people do that, whether it's with the foam rollers on their feet, but especially with the tennis ball. I've seen a lot of my guys on the hockey side, the baseball side. Hockey guys use it a lot before they put their skates on. That's big with the plantar stuff, right? With the tennis ball.
The key to the treatment of plantar fasciitis is stretching. So in the morning when you first wake up, do some stretching, that tennis ball, or I also recommend taking a water bottle, take a little bit of water out of the water bottle and freeze it. And then you have a frozen water bottle that you roll your foot over also. So all that is just stretching and decreasing the inflammation. You want to do a lot of stretching before taking that first step. But you really want to gently stretch the scar tissue and then do that every day. And through the course of the day, you do it a couple of times a day. And even if you did just that, no medications needed, no injections needed, plantar fasciitis improves over the course of usually 6 to 8 weeks. But you got to be very diligent about your exercises, about the tennis, that either the tennis ball or the frozen water bottle, or even I usually tell patients, take a towel, stretch it out on the floor, put your foot on it, and with your toes, curl the towel under your foot, and then stretch the towel again and do that again. And that keeps that plantar fascia stretched out and moving.
So there you go. My sister-in-law, Jocelyn, she's been dealing with it. And now she has a reason to watch the show because you can help her with her plantar fasciitis. She's a mom doing a bunch of different things with 2 little ones. So we can help her out too. What about the Rams? Obviously, they're big offense with Adams and Ferguson. What are the status for those 2 guys with Matthew Stafford in LA?
Yeah, so both of them were dealing with hamstring injuries. Devante has missed the last few games. We've talked about most hamstring injuries, usually about a couple of weeks, 2 to 4 weeks for recovery. So Devante has had that period of time to recover from it. So I think his whole systems go for him to go and play over the course of this weekend. He's had all the physical therapy and everything done also, so he should be fine to go. Terrence just missed the last week with the hamstring injury. So he's a little closer to the injury than Devante. So I don't know how well he's going to be or how good he's going to be come game time. I think it's going to be a game time decision more than anything else because his injury is a lot closer to this game. He's only had about a week or 2 to recover from it, as opposed to Devante, who's had close to a month to recover from it.
I'm thinking about this too because when you look at hockey and basketball, those are 2 controlled climates. But when you look at baseball and now that we look at football, you mentioned hamstrings, and I asked you today to start with the cold weather. Man, that's why it probably behooves a lot of these warm weather teams to try to get home games in the playoffs, right, Doc? Because it helps them, and it might be a stroke of luck for the visitors, right? If they have guys with injuries, recovery, and with the, you don't want to re-injure either. So I mean, man, that
absolutely,
we probably don't think about that too much, do we, when we have these conversations about
injuries? I think that's one of the reasons this time of the year. Yeah, I think it's one of those reasons why a lot of teams that are in the south of the country want to have that home advantage. Because going to Green Bay, going to Chicago, going to New York for a playoff game in Minnesota, I mean, it's on a dome, which is a good thing. Yeah. So I think that's one of those things. So either if you're going north, you want to be in a dome. Otherwise, you don't want to be outside because the weather can certainly affect the injuries that you have, especially if you have muscle type or tendon type injuries. It's very common that they can recur again if you're not staying loose. So in the warmer weather, it's a lot easier to stay nice and loose. There's a little acclimatization also that occurs for the teams that are used to playing in the cold weather when it comes to cooling effects and when it comes to sweating effects and all that. So there's some adaptation that goes both in warm weather and cold weather. So you certainly want to stay home as much as you can.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Philadelphia Eagles have a really good player on each side of the ball. They're hoping that they can be as close to 100%. We got Jalen Carter, the defensive tackle, and then Lane Johnson, the offensive tackle. I mean, how close to 100% will those guys be for an incredible matchup? Probably the 2 best, probably the best matchup this weekend with San Francisco and Philly.
So Jalen is dealing with a hip injury. It's undisclosed what type of hip injury he has. He's missed a few games with it. 2 to 4 weeks is usually a good time for recovery from, I would say, mostly a hip sprain. So as long as it's not a big flexor injury, a big groin injury, I think it should be fine to give it a go this weekend. Lane is dealing with a foot injury. It's a Liz Frank injury, which is that bridge of the foot, the same injury we talked about with Bucky Irvin. I think this happened early in the season. I think it's week 11 or so. So he's had a couple of months of time for recover from this. And usually when we look at this type of injury, usually about 2 months is about the right recovery time for a grade 1 or 2 injury. So I expect that he's going to be ready to go. So I think Lane Johnson certainly, I think, will be playing this weekend. Jalen, it depends on really what the underlying hip issue is and how well he's doing. I'm not certain if he's been doing, I think he's been listed day to day and he's been having a little bit of practice. So I think it's more of a game time decision for him, but I think Lane will be there on Sunday.
And you remember, Doc, a couple weeks ago when we spoke about Jalen Carter was the guy that got the double shoulder surgery that we spoke about.
Yeah.
And I mean, from your experience of being, around football and listening, we talk about these injuries. I mean, we kind of, I don't want to say joke, but we talked about Bucky Irving, 2 different injuries. I mean, what is, I guess, what's the most injuries you've seen in one player? Because like, there's no way that these guys are 100% healthy at the end of the year. But I just mentioned Jalen Carter. Like Jalen Carter, after getting surgery on both of his shoulders, now this guy's dealing with a hip injury. He's got to be like, I don't want to get out of bed. And oh yeah, he's got to go play defensive tackle for an NFL team. That's crazy.
Now, I by far from all the athletes that I've ever been in charge of or taking care of, football players have the most injuries per game participation or per career, especially linemen. Linemen have lots of injuries, whether it's shoulders, head, neck, fingers. I mean, you look at the fingers of a lineman; they're not all rolled up; they're all kind of deformed. Knee injuries, very common, also foot. So certainly, football players have, I think, the largest amount of injuries per season or per career. Certainly not as much as basketball, baseball. I think the other one category that I would put in there would be wrestlers.
Yeah.
Because of their acrobatics, all the moves, everything that they do, they're very prone also to musculoskeletal type injuries. So anytime I think you have an impact, contact, there's a larger potential for injury. Now, on the other side of that coin, you would say something like rugby. So rugby, on the other hand, which is also a pretty brutal sport, but on the other hand, doesn't have as many injuries as we have in football. And I think it's because of the lack of equipment. They're more careful when it comes to impact, tackling, hitting. They have different techniques when it comes to hitting each other, where they don't have as many injuries as those in the NFL, where they have all this equipment that is protective equipment, but sometimes you may feel a little bit too secure about the fact that you're wearing equipment and become a little too aggressive when you're doing some hits.
I wanted to ask you about, I'm glad you brought up rugby, because one thing that, me being a big wrestling fan over the years, they say that, you're in shape and then there's wrestling shape. And then they say that when they hit the ropes and then when they get slammed on the mat, like they build up this, and I don't know what it is they build up, but they build up this, what do they build up, Doc, so that when they're not bruising? Because you see sometimes when wrestlers get back into wrestling, the first couple of days when they're in it, every single time they hit the ropes, there's like a black and blue mark across their upper back. But over time, it goes away because they build it. Is that scar tissue?
There may be a little bit of a callus that develops in the skin. So it's a thicker skin. So then it protects itself. It's just basically like if you play a lot of golf. You may get some calluses around your fingers. You may get some calluses around your thumb and your hands, even wearing a glove. It's just protection. If you play a lot of basketball, the soles of your foot, and especially the ball of your foot, you start getting a callus there too. And that's just thickening of the skin just to protect itself from blistering up, from bruising, from bleeding. So you get thickness of the skin. So the same thing may happen along where the rope is constantly hitting the skin. You may develop a little bit of thicker skin there to protect itself.
So the thick skin isn't just something that's metaphorical. It's actually legit. How fascinated were you with kind of the miracles of the body when you got into this profession, Doc? Because I feel like all the things that we've talked about in the last couple of months or so, like the body and the way that it heals itself, the way it protects itself, the way it rejuvenates itself. I mean, it's just fascinating to me. And I don't even know if I really understand the majority of the things we talk about, but like you getting into this profession, like how fascinating was that, either going into this profession or as you were learning and studying more and more?
I mean, it's a very rewarding profession, especially doing sports medicine. One of the great things I love about it is that people that get hurt want to get better.
Right.
And they will do anything they can to get better, get back to their game, get back to their sport, get back to being active. So even just the weekend warrior that just likes to do exercise and gets hurt, they're looking forward to going back to what they enjoy doing when it comes to activity. So, and I've never ceased to be surprised as to the healing properties of the body. I've seen injuries that I go, this is going to take a long time to heal, and they heal fast. Or I'm thinking, this is not going to recover, and I get surprised, and you get recovery. So I think also just some genetics that play into it. when it comes to healing. Some people do heal faster than others. I think some people have a little bit of genetic propensity to have better, faster healing. I mean, certainly when you're younger, you heal much faster. As you get older, things heal a little slower. But it's still amazing to me the capabilities of the body to rejuvenate, heal, and then be able to participate again. But also part of that is the mental toughness. A lot of people get hurt, and it's not the physical part that they got to overcome, but it's just the mental part of getting back out there and doing it again and overcoming the fear of getting hurt again. And that's where the field of sports psychology, sports psychiatry has become very important in getting these people back to their sport, getting people back to activity, because there's a lot of inner fear that happens when you get hurt, because you want to, your body's defense mechanism is, I don't want to do it again.
Yeah, it's one of the biggest things in talking to a bunch of my buddies that were former professional athletes. They go, the mental hurdles that you have to climb over when you come back from the worst injury, the harder the injury to come, the worse injury, the harder it is to come back for that first time. It is just, you don't know. It's uncharted waters, and you're out there on an island. You have to trust it. Yeah. You have to trust the work that you've put in to strengthen that body part again. And it's something I think that we on the outside don't really pay too much attention to. And then we think like, oh, like Chris Godwin with all that hardware in his leg, you're like, well, why isn't this guy playing as well? It's like, well, I don't know. Maybe he doesn't want to snap his leg in half again. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of the idea.
And I look at boxing. I mean, one of the toughest things for a boxer to overcome is suffering a knockdown and suffering a knockout and losing by a knockout. Overcoming that and coming back to that next fight, knowing that I can get hit again and get knocked down again, is not easy.
How about a guy like Trent Williams, Doc, best left tackle in the game for the San Francisco 49ers? It seems like he's always banged up, but he finds a way to get on out there.
Yeah, so he had a hamstring injury too. It's like the team, week 17. He sat out the last game. So he's really close, basically 2 weeks rest to get to this. He did return to practice this week and looked really good, and through the practices that the press was able to see. So I do expect him to play this week, and it's a big game for the 49ers. Yeah. So I think he'll be out there and he'll give it a go, especially if the fact that he looked okay during the practices this week is a good sign.
Yeah, and a big guy, older guy, they sure as hell need him. He's just an incredible player. And then we'll finish off with the Houston Texans. Both of their corners, Kamari Lassiter and Derek Stingley Jr. If Houston wants to be able to win this game, I mean, it's an advantage for them that they play Monday night, Doc, so they get those extra couple of days. How much will that help those two guys?
So Kamari had an ankle injury. He sat out the last game of the season. He's also been dealing with a knee injury. He played through that knee injury week 16 in the win over the Chargers. He sat out, as I said, the last season as a precaution. So I expect him to be out there. I expect him to be playing. I think the ankle injury was a minor ankle injury. I think they also will give him a chance to the knee to heal up. So I think he'll be out there playing for the Texans. When it comes to Derek, an oblique injury. We talked about this, remember, with Springer. So he had that happened week 15 of the season against Arizona. So it's been close to 4 weeks since the time of the injury. We talked about usually 3 to 4 weeks is the recovery time for an oblique injury. So I think he should be fine, and he should be out there also to play for the Texans.
Man, it's going to be some good football this weekend. What do you got planned for this weekend, Doc? Anything good?
No, just chilling at home. Just good, relaxing weekend, playing some tennis, and just relaxing.
Are you going to go to the outdoor game?
And no, I have I'm going to be out of town during that weekend. I have a conference I need to go to.
Oh, man. All right. So I'll take a lot of pictures and send them to you, buddy. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. No, it's one of those things. It conflicted with a conference that I have to go to. I'm like, oh, man.
Now I got to tell the Lightning to make sure you guys come back again so you can do it for Dr. Rodriguez.
Oh, that's right.
Sure. My man, the one and only Dr. Carlos Rodriguez, EveraHealth. Make sure you go to everhealth.org. 17 different locations there in Pinellas County. They do such a great job there, and we always have such a great time. And so informative right here on the EverHealth Injury Report with Dr. Rodriguez. Doc, so great to see you. Happy holidays again. Right back at it next Thursday. We'll be back on schedule. I was talking to Julian Breesbaugh, the Lightning general manager, yesterday, so that's why we had to move it today. So, I mean, anytime you get a chance to talk to Julian, you got to take that opportunity, right?
Absolutely.
Buddy? Doc, you're the best. I appreciate it. See you next Thursday, buddy.
Thank you. Sounds good. Bye.
All right, buddy. the one and only Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. When you talk about the show and you talk about like, man, wanting to get back and wanting to get back in the saddle and start talking about sports again, Dr. Rodriguez is one of those guys who start thinking, I can't wait to get back and talk to Doc. And we'll mix it up. You know, we're going to be talking about different sports now that football is going to be coming to a close. We'll talk about some of the other football injuries as we get closer and closer to the Super Bowl. But if you guys notice here on the show, and I had somebody give me their feedback about the injury report like 2 weeks ago, they said, we like that you guys just have a conversation, and we like that it can relate to some of the personal things like we spoke about today with my sister-in-law dealing with her plantar fasciitis. And, you know, it's just, she's in so much pain. So, you know, I see a lot of people with the tennis ball and now with the frozen water bottle and with the towel. So I'll give her some of those tidbits from Dr. Rodriguez. Hopefully Jocelyn will be spry and twinkle toes once again. But yeah, there's so many different things with your bodies that we really have to be cognizant of. We got to take care of ourselves. And, you know, I need to follow that, you know, even more. That's one thing that my dad says a lot. My dad's in some of the best shape of his life at 68. But he really focuses on what he puts in his body, what he eats, and making sure that he gets out there and swings the golf club and walks. And he's telling his 4 kids, make sure you take care of yourselves. And I feel an obligation to do that, not just for myself, but, you know, when Doc gives us advice and when my dad says stuff like that. So, Doc, you're the best. We love you. Thank you so much for joining us, as always, here on the program. It is a Friday, and like Greg DeCruz, it is an Ask Me Anything Friday. If you want to ask me anything, sports or otherwise, just use that hashtag AMA and then go from there. Why did you ask us to research Todd Bowles last year with the Jets? I did, and now I'm really depressed. I just wanted you to see what I was talking about, buddy. It's like deja vu all over again. All those Jets fans, they're all looking at us right now like, you're bringing him back again? You're bringing him back for another year? It's the way it goes. This is the last week I'm going to be like pissed off about it, because it's just like, what are we going to do after that? What are we going to do? I'm not going to sit here and start banging the table like they should fire Todd Bowles. Like, why? Like, now it's just, all right, what are you going to do? You're going to keep him? What's it going to do? What's it going to change? Raphael Q85, go Canes, baby. You know what? I'm happy for the Canes, just not happy for Raph because he's a Red Sox fan, so we're not going to show him any kind of love. No, I'm just kidding. Raph's the best, big-time supporter of me and everybody here on the show. He was going back and forth with Booger McFarland on Twitter. I don't know if Booger responded, Raph, but you were giving him the business. I am actually going to talk about Carson Beck a little bit later on the show today. So, Raph, make sure you tune in to that. Because I'm going to give you my 2 cents on Carson Beck, because I'm kind of sick and tired of the same old crap when it comes to sports. That's 1:30 today. Ed Encina will join us here momentarily. I'll also give you who I think is going to win this weekend and the hypocrisy of football/soccer, whatever the hell you want to call it. Guys, make sure you're following me on all social media platforms, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. I'm everywhere. Like and subscribe on YouTube as well. We just had the Evara Health Injury Report with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez. We saw our guy, Hammer, chimed in. I saw you in there. There he is. Hammer, what's good, Jay and fam? Hope everyone has a great weekend. I can't do this podcast without the Super Chats. We've already had 3 Super Chats today. David Terry, Chan with $12. Thank you, Chan. I wish Ira would adopt me. He's one of a kind. That's awesome. The Super Chats and our partners, Honest Hammer and Evara Health. Again, I can't do this without you guys. So please, guys, contribute whatever you can. Every little bit helps. Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, for all your residential and commercial needs. Kitchen renovations, bathroom renovations, 813-244-0956, thehonesthammer.com, thehonesthammer@gmail.com. If you're looking to do some kind of renovation in your house and you just have a question, give them a call. Say, hey, I heard it on the Jay Recher podcast. And that helps everybody. Support local. I can't tell you that enough here on the program. Again, thehonesthammer.com. And we just chatted with Dr. Carlos Rodriguez on the Evara Health Injury Report. Just so fascinating to be able to chat with him about all kinds of injuries and all the sports. And those are the type of people that work over there at Evara Health. Again, 17 different locations in Pinellas County. He works at the High Point location, and they take any kind of insurance. They have a sliding scale for the uninsured. They want to be with you from the cradle to the grave. I mean, you know, pediatrics, the elderly, it's just, and I love the EverHealth Institute because, again, it reminds me so much of the broadcasting school that I went to, that hands-on training that you're going to get so that when you are working in some field in the medical profession, you already know what it entails. So EverHealth, it doesn't get much better than that. A big shout out to our partners, Honest Hammer Custom Builders, LLC, and EverHealth. I can't say it enough. Support local, support local, support local. And another guy that we always want to support when we're talking local, it's the original Oos, the one and only Eddie Encina, beat writer for the Tampa Bay Lightning for the Tampa Bay Times. What's going on, buddy? How are you?
Good. How are you doing, buddy?
Where's Raleigh at? Everybody wants to know.
I don't know. He's outside the room. So
Raleigh.
Bro, you hear it?
Raleigh.
It's time. We're live.
We're live. Everybody wants to see you. All right,
we're live.
Before we get into hockey, everybody wants to know, how'd the fantasy football season end up with the family over there?
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm not one to brag.
Oh, man.
But.
Wow. Incredible.
So, Dynasty. What is it? 3 championships in 5 years? Is that a dynasty?
Wow, it is a dynasty, buddy. 3 is a dynasty for me. 3 and 5.
Yeah. So here you go. This is getting things heavy on my shoulder. Had to put it down, but just since you asked, here it is.
Did you bring it to lightning practice today?
No.
Ed brought the briefcase into the arena one time, which was pretty funny. So who did you beat in the semifinals and then the finals?
I beat Josh Hockey in the semifinals, and I beat Shannon in the final.
Oh my God!
So it was kind of awkward at first, but
you beat your wife in the finals of the fantasy football. Oh my God!
In her family's fantasy football. This is like all of her family. So
what's that? Do they have a group chat that you're not in?
Oh, so there's tons of different
iterations
of their group chat. There's like the one that I'm in is called. They're all iterations of like breakfast food. So. Okay. I think one is like the main one is pancakes. And then the other one, I think that's just like the siblings and like their dad. That one's called waffles, I think.
Okay.
And there's other ones. So, yeah. So there's a bunch of them.
Ours is just the octet. They call it the octet. There's 8 of us that are in there. What would our group chat be for the Lightning?
Ooh. I don't even know.
It would be freight elevator
elevator, probably, yeah.
Freight elevator down. So congratulations, buddy. How pissed was Shannon when she lost?
She didn't want to talk about it.
She hasn't commented on the interview on the segment yet. So is she okay?
Yeah. She might be a little bit busy today.
Yeah, I bet that's what she's telling you, man. She's probably crying in the corner somewhere. Either that or she's on the phone with NFL general manager so she can do better next year. But she made it to the final, so we give her credit.
Yeah, her team was great.
Yeah, so good for her, good for you, good for the Tampa Bay Lightning. How was practice today?
Practice is good. Yeah, I mean, those practices are kind of a little bit unique because it's a practice on a fly out day, on a travel day. So, but they actually practiced for a while there. It was a good, hour, 15-minute, practice there. So they worked on a lot of different things. A lot of special teams, as they always have done, this year. So, but interestingly, I think it ended up with some 5-on-3 work, which is unique. So,
yeah.
I mean, I think obviously this team's kind of rolling right now. So you don't want to mix up too much stuff in there. Yeah, I mean, we did see Scott Sabrin out there. He wasn't wearing a red jersey, so it's the first time we've seen him back on the ice since that fight. Against Jack-Eye and against Montreal. So good to see him back out there, obviously. But yeah, I think the big thing is Simone Lundmark was still out there. So, he's going to be their 7th defenseman now. So, you think, coming off a few days off, maybe we see Ryan McDonough skating, but not the case. So I think with Mac, it's going to be still kind of a little bit more than a day-to-day thing with him. Because obviously, and again, Cooper said this is that, they want to get this right. They want to make sure that when he comes back, it's coming back for good. So I think that's one of the situations there with him that you want to make sure that the injury is done with, that, it's not kind of a slow play and hope that he's back, that he's back for good. So those guys kind of what we got from practice today.
What I retweeted and I told everybody to, again, subscribe for the Tampa Bay Times today. But also reading the story of yesterday, I just think it's so cool that Julian takes time out of his year to be able to sit down and answer our questions for an hour. What was kind of your big takeaway? We spoke about it yesterday on the show about Radish and Moser and how the team is really going to be, strapped at the deadline, only 12 days really to accrue anything. So a lot of it's going to have to be money in, money out if they do make a deal. What was some of your big takeaways from the chat with him yesterday?
Yeah, but obviously the Radish thing I think is interesting because it is, that is I think it's the first time we've actually, thought of it in this context that, it is going to be a life-changing deal for him, and we're talking multiple years, we're talking multi-millions, for him to get. So, and again, combine that with what they have done with these in-season extensions, with Dastu, with, Mosier and McDonough, there's kind of a numbers situation here, when we're talking about it. Yeah. So, I think there's a situation where they keep Ratty, and I think there's a situation where, this Ratty kind of uses the springboard him to something bigger where he can play those kind of minutes. It's good. I think one of the biggest storylines of this second half is really going to be, as you get guys back like Victor Hedman and Ryan McDonough, how does this all sort out? Because obviously there's no doubt you at this point cannot split up Darren Radish and JJ Mosier. And so where does McDonough fit in? Obviously McDonough's a little bit easier, fit because you move Dastu down and you pair him with Chernak, but where does Victor fit? Where does Victor fit in the power play? Where does and I do think that it's going to be a situation where at least initially you want to make it organic, right? So maybe Victor comes back like they brought him back earlier in the season, is playing 16 minutes, not necessarily on the power play or working on a second unit, and you kind of see where it kind of shakes out, but at this point you've got to go. It would be different if they were chasing a playoff spot still, but I think right now the way they're playing and the way, and especially when we heard from Julian, it's like it's all rooted in the way they're playing defensively. Yeah. And I think a big part of that is that it's obviously the whole group, but a big part of it has been the way that defensive core has played. So it's going to be interesting to see how these guys fit in, and I think that's what makes sense with what Julian said is that and I don't think it's by any means a knock on Darren, but this is what we've seen over the years is, and it's also a reason why he signed these in-season extensions. We going into the year, we thought that, Ryan McDonough was going to have to wait. We thought that JJ Mosier was going to have to wait, but he gathered the information that he felt comfortable with engaging those players within in-season extensions. And, a big part of it is comps, like it's market comps, and he saw some market comps on McDonough, at time, length, where he's at in his career, age, and was comfortable with that number. Mac was comfortable with that number. And then obviously with Mosier, it's a little bit different. You got a guy who's going into that, the opportunity to have that big time extension. And, you see what he's done, and, it's 6.75 is I think it's a pretty good deal for JJ Mosier at 25, knowing that what we've seen him develop in his defensive game and knowing that his offensive game is going to pick up. That is going to develop even more so. So, when you talk about Radish, there's no real easy comp there. It's we've seen what he's done in the past 25 games, but obviously he's a guy who has been, for the most part, a kind of like almost a complimentary piece on the in the first pairing when he's played with Hedman, but for the most part kind of a 16 minutes, 17 minute guy. So we'll have to see kind of how that develops and what he kind of becomes as we go on. Now, having said that, again, you can't split those guys up.
No.
Now, are those guys going to play 27 minutes a game when the other guys come back? Probably not. But the impact that they've had being a pairing that matches up with shutting down other teams' top players, and we saw this to the highest degree on Tuesday night against Colorado. You know, I mean, it was amazing what, you know, that matchup forward line, the Gord line, obviously, and you know, for the most part, the Mosier and Radis matching up with them. And I think that's another thing. I'm rambling now, but like, you know, before going into the season, you had a matchup line that was the Sorelli line. You had a matchup pairing that was the McDonough-Chernak pairing.
Yeah.
And now you've doubled that with the you know, with what Mosier and Radis have done, and with, you know, the Gergenson's Holmberg line is done. So it makes it a lot easier for Coop, you know, it's on the road, at home, to make these kind of, you know, you've got two lines that you can really kind of lean on. There he is. Two lines that you can kind of lean on to be like, hey, you know, these are the lines we trust against the opponent's best line. And again, we saw that against Colorado, against the McKinnon line. I don't know if I've ever seen that line shut down the way they were the other night on Tuesday. I mean, I think I'd have to check, but I don't think McKinnon actually had a shot on goal in 5-on-5.
He did.
You know,
No, he one attempt and I think one shot on goal. 5-on-5.
So there's, when you see that on arguably, you know, the bet, you know, the highest leading scorer in the league, you know it's working. So you can't mix with it, but obviously there's still a lot of time to kind of see how this whole thing shakes out. And you know, Julian has a pulse of this. Like we know Julian,
he's all over it.
He's all over it. So you know, again, it'll be interesting to see how Darren does. I mean, obviously Darren wants to stay here. There's no doubt about it. You know,
but it's almost like Ed, if he plays too good, there's no way he can come back.
Yeah, no, he's playing him. He's playing. There's no doubt he's playing himself out of the Tampa Bay Lightning because they can't. They're trying, and that's no different than in obviously smaller, you know, scales, but down, you know, over the years with guys like Killorn and Palat and guys like that who, you know, such valuable pieces. But you know, again, like he might be playing his way into for his own sake. Again, that life-changing contract that a guy like him deserves after, you know, being one of these guys who, you know, just grinded, you know, in juniors, 5 years of junior hockey, you know, a bunch of years in the AHL, and finally getting a chance here, and obviously getting a chance to be a top pairing guy now, you know, with all the injuries. So, you know, it would suck to lose the guy like Darren Radish, but you almost, you know, it's a mixed thing, but it's a mixed bag because obviously the guy deserves a big time deal after the way he's played.
Ed, what will the D pairs look like when everybody's healthy?
I don't know. Again, I think
crazy, you know, right?
Because we haven't even mentioned Lilleberg, you know, and you know, so you've got three. You're basically your three top left shot guys. You know, Mosier had been playing on the right, you know, before all these guys got hurt. Yeah, I mean, Dastu, you know, he's a part. He's been given that kind of security for next year, but he is on a two-way deal now. But I think he'd have to go through waivers. You know, it's going to be tough. I mean, obviously, you know, when you look at the bottom pairing, you see guys like Carlisle, obviously on the team now, Lundmark. I think, you know, I don't know how you can try to send Crozier through waivers. You know, so it's going to be a tough situation.
Yeah, what do you do?
Even a guy like Carlisle sending him through waivers.
Yeah.
You know, that's a tough one too, because he's obviously been a valuable guy. He is a free agent. I think he's a Group 6 free agent just because of his age and the number of games that he's played. That he would be a free agent too, I think. So he's another guy who, you know, a depth piece has been certainly valuable with all these injuries. But yeah, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be difficult. I mean, we've kind of figured out the forward group at this point, you know, even though they're carrying a lot. But you know, and again, they've throughout a lot of this, they've carried 6D, you know, which has been rare for them. They've always been kind of a team that likes having that extra guy. And obviously they do now, but and going on the road, I would expect them to. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this thing shakes up. But I wouldn't be surprised to when Victor comes back to kind of see him get, at least initially, to see how it all shakes out. See him getting, you know, third pairing kind of minutes. Yeah, you know, at least initially.
Are you going to Milan for the Olympics?
Oh no.
Come on.
No, I that's a no sell. But
no, could you try?
I'd love to. I mean, we just aren't going to go. I mean, we're just not going to go to that. But you know, obviously too. I mean, just from covering. I mean, you know, from covering Stanley Cup games and showcase games and stuff like that through the league is like, it's tough covering one team. Yeah. You know, let alone I honestly think this would be extremely tough to do because they have so many teams, and so many teams that have Lightning representatives on them. It's like 7 different teams when you think about it. So, and 12 different players. So, and you know how it is when we go to cover these events, like you're from car to arena to hotel room to car to, it's not necessarily it's great to cover, but it's not necessarily anything where you're going there. It's a grind, and I'm not saying that to complain or anything like that, but those are things that you got to cover, and you've got to be careful with your body and the way you're sleeping and everything like that to make sure that you don't wear yourself out, and then you come back in 3 weeks back over here, and then and you're beat up too. So
yeah, you can't, and then you can't go to Colorado for the Stanley Cup final.
And I've been there, done that. So
I know we need you, buddy. Take care of yourself, would you? You got to take care of yourself. What are you looking for down the stretch here before the playoff, before the Olympics here, Ed? Because it'll be here before you know it, and then everybody disperses, and then everybody comes back. Obviously, the outdoor game is going to be here in the next couple of weeks, but I mean, trying to stay healthy offensively. I mean, they're firing on. It's almost like, what do we want from this team? Because if they continue to play well and then they go to the Olympics, it's like, shit, this is the last time. That's the worst time for them to break up.
Right? Yeah, and I think that's the tough part, is getting that group back together after the Olympics. I think we saw some. I don't want to use the word fatigue, but it's probably the best word to kind of use after the Four Nations with some of the guys when they came back, and then when you have half of your team going there, and obviously there'll be different levels of participation. Some teams won't make it out of group play, but there's no doubt there's going to be significant players that make it, to the final, semifinal, the elimination rounds. So I think that's probably the biggest question coming out of the Olympics. I think going in, it's there's so many games on the road. They played so well on the road. I asked Coop today. I was actually, sometimes when you go cover other things, you get this mind in your head. And when I went to cover the Winter Classic, I heard Mike Sullivan talking. The Rangers have been great on the road this year, right?
Yeah.
Not so much at MSG, but they've been good on the road. And after that game, and that they, basically, just took control of against the Panthers in the Winter Classic, he was asked about how, just about playing on the road, and he said that as a coach, you think it's he felt that it was just it's a better, easier sell to players of playing a simpler, more direct game. And I asked Coop about that, and he was like, yeah, yes and no, but I mean, definitely the big thing is the lead, right? You don't want to go on the road and have to chase the game, and I think that's something that they've over more at home actually than on the road, that they've kind of struggled with, and you can only have so many comebacks from three goals down and stuff like that. But we know how it is. You can take the air out of a building pretty quickly if you go up on a team, and especially playing the way that they play, and the way that they have played on the road with that kind of direct, simple game of the forecheck, dumping pucks in, chasing pucks, winning battles, all those cliche things that lead to winning hockey. So I think it's just kind of keeping that form when they're on the road. I mean, where this is a stretch of games where it's 22 days where it's, I think they only have 1 or 2 home games. So and again, we've seen not this specific group, but I mean, I think we go back to 2020 in the bubble, when being together as a group for that kind of time kind of galvanizes a team, and that's probably the most, the biggest kind of example of that, because they were in a bubble and everything like that. But there's no doubt that being away as a group together and playing good hockey and winning can help you down the road. And I think, it's getting to that point. Obviously, I think we're starting to see a little bit of separation in the East. I mean, you look at the Atlantic Division, and our beloved Florida Panthers are sitting there, in 7th place with 47 points, but they're 9 points out, but they're still only like 3 points out of a playoff spot.
Yeah.
So you look at that, and it's starting to kind of separate a little bit, but again, those wild card spots make it, super easy for a team that's down and out to kind of get there. Now, the biggest struggle is less than the points, it's the teams ahead of you, right? Because you've got to hope those teams don't keep winning too. So I think keep munching points, and get as many as you can, because also everyone talks about the condensed schedule. As Julian said yesterday, is the condensed schedule really hasn't hit till after the break. So you want to keep, it feels like it's been a condensed schedule for sure, but it really, when you look at the numbers, it really doesn't hit till, March and April. So you want to take advantage of this time and get as much points as you can going into that stretch. Those are the kind of things that I'm looking at. Obviously they've had some really good, individual efforts, and obviously at the end of the day, I've said this from day one, it all kind of comes down to number 88. And I think he's played tremendously well. And, again, going back to that Colorado game, you probably, when you look at it as a whole, you see, okay, it's another, 31 save going for Vasi, but the way he held, that lead in the third period, when, they had some power plays, when, you're dealing with, 2-3 minutes of 6-on-5, and, you're against a team like that just pushes and pushes and have so many, weapons.
He was so calm. He was so calm.
He was just so good. It looked like the past few weeks, I honestly think we've seen more and more that just cool, calm postseason Vasi, which I think that sometimes we haven't seen, you know what I mean? And again, he's a guy who gets better the more pucks he sees. And it was kind of a good example there the other night against the Avalanche. So those are the kind of things that you kind of look at.
All right, Ed, before we go, what do we think? John Harbaugh on his way, leaves Baltimore Ravens. I mean, what an incredible career there.
Yeah, I was a little surprised. I just think that, much like the Lightning, like the Ravens are a team that kind of has, because they've won and they obviously haven't, there's, I think the fans of Baltimore probably say that it's disappointing when you look at the big body of work of like how good they've been and how close they've been on several occasions. But, they're one of those teams like Coop talked about a couple of nights ago, is that, that directs that vertical synergy of like from ownership, GM, down to coach and down to the players that few teams actually have the patience to have. But when it works, it works, I mean, like, I remember when Ozzie Newsome hired John Harbaugh, and, Ozzie was probably, when you talk about stability, like, in that organization, he was really the key to that. So it'll be interesting. It'll be weird to see him in another, another sideline after all these years. But obviously there's also time for change every once in a while. I mean, like, there was, what was it? Probably maybe 2 or 3 years ago, this time of the year, when the Lightning were out of a playoff spot and they were kind of, they needed to win a lot of games, and I don't know how real those were, but there were whispers about Coop, but I think that was probably the only time really that since I've come was that. But yeah, I mean, it's tough because then you got to rebuild with a new guy and everything like that. But I do think that there's probably, it was the time to do it. I mean, it's a tough one because they were one kick away from making the playoffs too.
Yep. One catch last year, right? Mark Andrews.
Right, exactly. I mean, they've been so close on so many different occasions, whether it was Mark Andrews, likely in the back of the end zone a couple of years ago. It's tough, but that's the NFL. The games mean so much, and you miss a couple opportunities, you lose a couple games that you should have won, and then you're sitting there needing stuff. And that's really what the Ravens were, like they could have helped themselves. And obviously Lamar was hurt, that killed them too. But, you look back on it, there's no real mulligans in the NFL, so, but it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I haven't paid too much attention about the reaction in Baltimore, but I think that, that there's such a passionate fan base there that, I think that it's sad, but I think a lot of people there probably are like, okay, well, maybe it's time for something new.
That's right. Tampa Bay Times, Tampa Bay Lightning beat reporter, our guy Eddie Encina. Right now up on TampaBay.com, you have the story with Julian Brusbaugh from yesterday. Anything else we should be keeping an eye out for?
Yeah, so, I mean, we'll have something today. I'm just kind of talking about some of the stuff we're talking about how good they've been on the road going into this big road trip. Some leftovers from Julian in the beat column. I think, one very good point that was a Julian made was about Connor Geeky, and I think it was interesting to actually have someone say that. I think we kind of know some of those things about Geeks, and just kind of that in this organization's eyes, that when they bring him up, they want it to be for good, not just for good, but with him playing the role that they foresee him playing for the next, 6 years, and that's in a top 6 kind of role,
Not a fourth line scrapper, yeah.
Having the puck on his stick instead of being a 10 minute a night fourth line checking guy. So we kind of go into that, and I think you had mentioned you got some great questions there when you asked about the Olympic stuff and the Sorelli Bennett kind of controversy there. Talk about that a little bit, and then one thing I do have to point out, one story that I think has been really interesting has been our website past couple of days, is Colleen's story on a lot of times we get locked into the stuff that happens on the ice, but the dollars and cents stuff that really kind of affects people is this kind of this deal that the Lightning have worked out with Hillsborough County to basically get about $250 million to renovate the bench, and they're paying a good. I mean, they're getting about it's about a 75-25 split in terms of what they're asking for and what they're going to pay. So they're and obviously they've the Vinnick and the his group has built that area around the arena so
Right.
well to basically a second urban core downtown. It might be even more vibrant than the regular downtown in Tampa, but I mean, basically the thrust of that story is, okay, the Lightning are kind of ahead of everyone on getting that county money. Where does this leave the Bucs in their intention on renovating Raymond James, which is obviously needed? What their vision is kind of building a battery kind of area around Raymond James, and then obviously the long-term goal of what the Rays want. Everyone's going to have their hand out, right? So what kind of bar does this set, and how much can the county actually give? And obviously one thing that is very important, because people see headlines and just like, oh, this is taxpayer money, we're getting screwed to pay for billionaires to build arenas and stuff. But I mean, this is going to the money from this is coming from basically what they call the bed tax, which is the tourism tax that they get from tourists who come in on their hotel bills, basically. So it's not necessarily this thing where like you're going to have referendums and stuff like that. Like, okay, you're paying for this, you're paying for the arena, you're paying for the stadium. But I think that's one benefit that we do have here in Tampa, is that tourism tax is one that really does help everyone out. But like, again, like, just looking at the scope of sports in Tampa, professional sports in Tampa, like, this is a very critical time here, because all these places, all these teams do need money, I mean, and we know about Raymond James, and we know that, to keep up with the SoFis and the, Jerry's Worlds and the Allegiant, stadiums, in Vegas, that to draw Super Bowls, continue to draw national championship games, all those big level events that made Tampa so, such a draw, that they do need to do something. They do need to upgrade Raymond James to keep it there, keep those things there. So really important stuff, like not just necessarily Lightning stuff, but really important stuff. I think impacts the community. I think that's where, not to toot our horn, but like out to the Times, we do a really good job of it. Is that it's not just covering the games, the sports, the teams, but it's like these are interesting. This is interesting news that is actually important for readers, and not just that like, okay, this is taxpayer versus the tourism tax and stuff like that, but just kind of understanding stuff of what's really happening here in terms of dollars and cents. So that's one I definitely want to mention, because Colleen did a great job on it. She's done a great job on the Rays Stadium stuff and everything like that, and she just continues to do a really good job on all those stadium / like sports big money stories.
Yeah, and first time Colleen Wright was ever on the radio. Jane Zach, baby, back in the day. We loved it. So yeah, she's so freaking talented. And as is everybody over there at the Tampa Bay Times. Again, everybody out there, subscribe to the Tampa Bay Times today. The subscription, man, if it's not for you, get it for a family member. Support local with guys like Ed that are, just this is the time of year, right? With all the stuff with the Lightning, all the changes with the Buccaneers. And then, of course, the Rays right around the corner. And who knows, USF, man, it's going to be wild 2026. The original Oos, Ed Encina, Eddie in the Yard on Twitter /X. You're the man, Ed. Have a good weekend, buddy. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, buddy. See you later.
The ones. We the ones right there. He's the one. Eddie Encina, baby, the original Oos, Rolly's Pops, as we like to call him here on the program. I feel really bad that he beat Shannon. No message from Shannon at all today on the segment. I hope she is okay. Okay, so I'm really not sure if many of you saw what happened at the end of the Arsenal-Liverpool match yesterday, but it caused quite a firestorm. At the end of a heated battle between two of England's most storied clubs, Liverpool defender Connor Bradley kicked the ball out of play to help thwart an oncoming Arsenal attack. In the process, it looked like Bradley twisted his knee pretty bad and went down immediately, clutching his leg. Arsenal winger Gabriel Martinelli, who was the one closing down on Bradley, didn't see or didn't care to recognize the awkward fall and tried to quickly get the ball back in play as the Gunners looked for a late winner. What happened next has infuriated many. The referee's whistle blew pretty quickly to stop the action because he didn't want Arsenal to get back in play with Bradley down. But Martinelli took it as Bradley was milking the injury and trying to get the last minutes off the clock so his team would at least come away with 1 point on the road. As Bradley was down writhing in pain on the touchline, Martinelli took matters into his own hands, literally, and aggressively tried to push down the Liverpool defender so that he was completely off the pitch and play could resume. Players from both teams flew in, pushing and shoving started happening, yellow cards given out. It was an ugly scene. After the game, soccer pundits were furious with Gabriel Martinelli and his actions, but I thought to myself, how much this screams of hypocrisy. I certainly don't condone Martinelli's actions, but I can see where he was coming from. 94th minute of the game, your team's pushing for the game winner of a scoreless match, and the defender goes down in his own end to try and stop the momentum of the opposition. You see it all the time, unfortunately. Did Martinelli go a little too far? Yeah, no doubt. But I'm honestly surprised things like this don't happen more often. All the time you see guys whinging and moaning and going down after a hard tackle and acting like they just got shot with a bazooka. 14 seconds later, they're up, they're running down the pitch like nothing happened. Defenders holding on to a lead or clinging to a possible draw. And all of a sudden, they have cramps. Somebody stretch me, please. We see time wasting all the time in this sport. It kills it. And I think it's one of the most indefensible things about this beautiful game. From all accounts, Martinelli is a great guy. And we've seen since this incident happened that he's not only reached out to Connor Bradley to apologize, but he made a public apology on social media as well. Too quickly nowadays, we want to bash the hell out of a professional athlete for doing something in the heat of the moment and acting like the only repercussions is him getting stoned in the town square. I've really grown to love this sport, but the fraudulence that permeates through it when guys are constantly lying about their injuries by just simply lying on the ground. Oh, and then the one time the guy actually isn't crying wolf, we get an incident like this. I wish that was the lesson we took from this, but that's not as easy as throwing a stone, is it? So for all the talk about that, and trust me, I am not an Arsenal nor a Liverpool fan, but again, it's so quick. I would have punched this guy. I would have done this. I would have done that. Like time and place, right? I don't quite understand. Like, what did you think is going to happen? What did you think is going to happen when guys are constantly, lying about injuries? Shit like this is going to happen. Not surprised. And again, once again, I'm not surprised, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happened more often. Did y'all watch the college football playoff semifinal last night? What a freaking game. Holy smokes. Unbelievable. What a game last night between Miami and Ole Miss. All the respect in the world for Trinidad Chambliss and Ole Miss and Coach Golding. They gave the Hurricanes all they could handle. I didn't have a dog in the fight. I was over at the Blind Goat last night with my buddy to see the wonderful Twee. If you ever go to the Blind Goat, Twee, that's one of the best bartenders and just one of the nicest people in all of Tampa. Go tell her hello. The best wings in Tampa, in my opinion, are at the Blind Goat. So it was just really cool to head on over there. Plenty of Miami fans, plenty of Ole Miss fans. I got plenty of friends in both fan bases. It's funny because I was at the University of Tampa a couple of weeks ago with my buddy that was an Ole Miss fan. He still is an Ole Miss fan. And he asked me who I thought was going to make it to the final. And I just said, I really like Miami and I really like Ole Miss. And he looked at me, he goes, you're just saying that. I'm like, no, man, for real. And it was not bad. I don't know if I ever said it on the show. Because I don't go overboard when it comes to predictions. I think it just gets really disingenuous when it's like, I want to predict this game. Let's do our predictions this week. Like, it should just be natural. Like today, it felt natural to talk about these NFL games coming up. So that's why I'm going to give you my predictions. I'm not going to do it every week because if it's boring games, why talk about it? It's a waste of time. The thing that sticks out to me after last night's game was just how many of you out there are just downright Florida State Fair pretzel level salty over Miami quarterback Carson Beck. I mean, if you're still hating on the kid, you're just a hater. I don't care if you think he's overrated. I don't care if you don't think he's going to be a good NFL quarterback. He led his team to a national championship appearance, and no one can ever take that away from him. People just love hating. And we saw it earlier this year, quote unquote, I think he sucks. Okay. I mean, the kid started at Georgia, and now he's at Miami. All of you haters out there can't even afford a Bulldog, nor do you know what the mascot of the freaking Hurricanes is. When the game was on the line last night, he made throws down the field and outside the numbers in order to put the Canes in a position for the game-winning score. Put the Canes in a position for the game-winning score, which, oh yeah, he scored with his legs. Listen, he's no Josh Allen. He's no Lamar Jackson back there, but he made the winning play when it counted. Is he a perfect prospect? Of course not. But the kid is one win away from immortality. One win away from being a main reason why the U is officially back. What then? Well, Miami fans rejoice. The naysayers will be silent, and the haterade will have run dry. Just let the kid live. I am jacked up for tonight's game. Indiana, Oregon. I'll be at the Dignitary Cafe with our pal Ian Beckles. If you want to cheer on the Hoosiers, if you're a Oregon fan, don't show up. No, I'm not laughing. I'm dead ass. Do not show up. Do not show up. Indiana, Oregon tonight. Fernando Mendoza, Dante Moore, two of the best quarterbacks, if not the two best quarterbacks in the country, going at it. Dan Lanning, Kurt Signetti. We know what happened the first time when Indiana went into Eugene and they won that game. And I was just so thoroughly impressed. I thought that was one of those games that you look at and you go, all right, this is the real deal. And I just love that Indiana can win a game a multitude of ways. I had this conversation with somebody last night. The fact that here in 2025, 2026, we saw Indiana beat Alabama in the fashion that they did. I mean, holy shit. Alabama was built in a way of strength through the trenches and the Saban years. And I would be concerned if I was a Tide fan. They did make the playoff, but they got absolutely embarrassed by a team a couple of years ago that if I would have told you Indiana was in the college football playoff, you'd say I was freaking crazy. This turnaround has been one of the biggest turnarounds that we have ever seen in college football. And now they have an opportunity to make it to the – can you imagine – Indiana and Miami? Ian's going to try to go down to the game. I told him, you better get to the sideline. You better get to that freaking sideline. The Hoosiers need as many former NFL players as humanly possible to get down there and support them on the sideline. If you could get Michael Irvin and Ray Lewis and all these guys on the other side, and if I have to reach out for Indiana for a field pass for Ian, not even for me, but for Ian, I got to do it, bro. I got to do my part. I'll reach out to the SID. He deserves it. He deserves it, man, to be out there and support them for so long. All right, we're going to finish with my NFL predictions for this weekend. Again, this is a Friday. This is an Ask Me Anything Friday. So whatever you want to ask me, nothing's off the table, sports, lifestyle. Otherwise, just use the hashtag AMA, and I will answer those questions for you. All right, let's get into it. The NFL matchups this weekend, and we will start Saturday, 4:30. The LA Rams travel to Carolina to take on the Panthers. Dave Canales and the crew, 8-9. The Rams, 12-5. I think a lot of people are writing Carolina off, which you shouldn't do. Because what they've been able to do this year, oh, yeah, they've beaten the Rams in LA. They went to Green Bay to beat the Packers. I think the Rams are going to win this game, but I think Carolina is going to keep it a lot closer than people think. This is going to be some valuable experience that Dave Canales and the Panthers are going to get for the future. But this is the time for the LA Rams, especially if they're going to get Adams and they're going to be as healthy as they've been the last couple of weeks. Now's the time. I still think they're probably the odds-on favorite to win it all, but it starts in Carolina. You got to play your best game. Saturday, 8 o'clock, an NFC North showdown. I am in the minority here. I know a lot of people are going to pick the Chicago Bears in this game. I know a lot of people are going to look at Green Bay and say, well, Micah Parsons isn't in the game. Their defense isn't all that good. But when you have nothing to lose and when you have a quarterback that has been there before, remember Jordan Love went on the road in Dallas and beat the shit out of the Cowboys. LaFleur's been there before. Ben Johnson hasn't. Caleb Williams hasn't. I'm going to pick Green Bay to win this game on the road. If I had to put some money down, I would put it on Green Bay. They've got nothing to lose. Nobody thinks they're going to win. Chicago is so much better than this year than they were last year, and Mike is hurt. And I think Green Bay will be smart, run the football, run your offense the right way, force Caleb Williams into the mistakes. If you can do that, which he hasn't done, his accuracy isn't great, but he hasn't made the big mistake and he's made the big plays. I think Green Bay can win this game. My money's on Green Bay. Sunday, 1 p.m. Buffalo in Jacksonville. It's probably, I won't say could be. I think it could be one of the best games of the weekend, and I might be in the minority of this one as well. Jacksonville 13-4 against Buffalo, 12-5 against Sunday at 1 there at Everbank in Jacksonville. Jacksonville on paper may have the more well-rounded team. I know Buffalo really had some issues stopping the run, but I think when you have guys that have been there before, Josh Allen, James Cook, Josh Allen knows this opportunity. Sean McDermott knows this opportunity. I think when you look at a coach that if he loses this game, they can move on from him. Josh is looking and not seeing Lamar, not seeing Pat Mahomes, not seeing Joe Burrow. The door's wide open. I don't think there's really any favorites. I wouldn't be surprised if anybody won the Super Bowl. The only team I'd be surprised, probably the Panthers. I'm going with Buffalo. My guy, Dan Geary, I think this is their year. I want Buffalo to win. I know the fans up there, they've been waiting a long time. I think they deserve it. San Francisco and Philadelphia in that game. 4:30 on Sunday, a hard-hitting affair. I'm going to go with the road team again, the Road Warriors for me. This could be the end for Nick Sirianni in Philadelphia. It's just the weirdest team. It's the weirdest team. There's the lack of harmony, and don't be surprised if that's a place where John Harbaugh ends up going. If I'm John Harbaugh, I'm not making any kind of decision at all because I'm looking at a couple of jobs right now. If Philadelphia opens up, if you're John Harbaugh, that's where I'm going. Right? A lot of talent there. They need a breath of fresh air. The best thing for the Eagles might be losing this game to the San Francisco 49ers. 8 o'clock Sunday night, LA, the Chargers travel to New England to take on the Patriots. I like the home team in this one. I think Vrabel and his experience, the ability for him to tap into the time with him in Tennessee. I think Drake May, the way he's playing right now, he's one of the best players in the game. I think he's the MVP this year. So a lot of people are saying, well, I have Matthew Stafford over Drake May because of the schedule, how weak it was for the New England Patriots. My retort is this. Matthew Stafford has a Super Bowl. Matthew Stafford has Devonta Adams. He has Puka Nacua. He has Kyron Williams. He's got Braden Fisk and Jared Verse. Drake May is a second-year quarterback who has Stephon Diggs, who people are like, is he going to be a factor? Is he not going to be a factor? He's a second-year quarterback. I don't care what your competition is. Look at C.J. Stroud. Look at all these other guys in their second year and how bad they do. The sophomore slump. When there's tape out on you, it's that much harder. I feel like I hate defending New England. But Drake May's the MVP for me for this year. Right? I mean, as great as Sean McVay is, I mean, he could have had any other quarterback in there for a couple weeks, and I think they would have held the fort down. I think New England wins this game pretty handily. And then Monday night, Houston, Pittsburgh. I could see this going one of two ways. I could see Pittsburgh winning this game somehow, some way, but I could also see Houston beating the shit out of the Steelers. That defense is scary, bro. They're scary. They're physical. And I could see, and remember, you even saw it in the game against Baltimore, the lack of communication or the shitty communication between Arthur Smith and Aaron Rodgers. This late into the season, they're still having issues. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh, but I wouldn't be surprised if Houston wins. Josh, on a scale of 1 to 10, how mad were you at Burt for slow rolling you and thanking you for pizza? See you tonight, brother. Go Hoosiers. My guy Josh will be there, especially Indiana. -3. More mad that I lost than Burt for thanking me for pizza, because that night he didn't necessarily slow roll me. He won. He slow rolls everybody else. He didn't slow roll me, but he did make the comment about the pizza. So again, more mad that I lost because I'm an uber competitive person. I hate fucking losing. I used to be really good at poker. I would always win. Playing Indians, I don't know what it is, man. I just can't do it. I can't put it together. I don't know what it is. I have too much fun with the guys. And maybe I'm just too honest. I can't lie. I can't bluff. You just read it. I wear my emotions on my sleeves, man. What are you going to do? All right, that's going to wrap it up for me. I love you guys so much, man. This has been such a great week. The first week back. And we're firing. Over 2,000 subscribers. We're going to continue to roll, continue to do big things. Great guests coming up over the next couple of weeks. A big thank you to our 3 guests today: Ira Kaufman, Dr. Carlos Rodriguez with the Evara Health Injury Report, and of course, every day, Eddie Encina. A big thank you to our super chats: DT, David Terry, Chan, and Carlos Becerra. Thank you very much. Can't do this without you guys. Can't do it without our partners, Honest Hammer and Evara Health. I'm still trying to get rid of this cough. So I'm going to relax a little bit this weekend. Baseball starts next weekend. Next couple of months are going to be freaking crazy. Again, I love you all. Follow me on all social media platforms at Recher, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, TikTok, Instagram. Like and subscribe on YouTube. And come check us out. They got karaoke and Indiana, Oregon tonight at the Dignitary Cafe, 4817 Southwest Shore Boulevard. Come hang out. Kava, kratom, coffee, tea, good vibes, and hopefully a Hoosiers victory. Everybody have a safe, a happy, a healthy weekend, and we'll see you Monday at noon right here on the Recher Podcast. I am gone. Peace out. Love y'all.